The most painful experience I have been through in a theater. The movie crawled at a snail's pace. The jokes were forced and not at all funny. The theater emptied out about 1 hour in. Scene transitions were sharp. There was no coherent flow. I don't understand how anybody in this experienced cast and crew could let such garbage onto the screen. It'll be a while before I can force myself back into a theater. It was truly painful.
That's a traumatizing experience from IMDb.
Well, at least he didn't take 45 of his friends with him to experience this.
Hello, and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Steven.
Hey there.
And Andrew.
He reversed it.
Reverse.
Gotta keep you on your
He's got
toes.
to play in the Uno reverse card.
Exactly.
I'm just going to skip you next time I produce.
No. What's a draw for mean? I don't know.
Where do I put these
What do
cards?
I even do with this? In this episode, we're reviewing the movie that brought Steven Soderbergh out of retirement. That's right. We're talking about the 2017 wild and wonderful West Virginia heist flick, Logan Lucky.
Wait, so it brought him out of retirement?
Yeah, he had a faux retirement where he basically...
So you pulled a Miyazaki.
Yeah, more or less. He retired from making movies for, I can't remember how it was, 4 or 5 years.
I was actually gonna go with Urban Meyer, but he probably didn't fake a heart attack, did he?
Not to my knowledge.
Probably not.
I didn't see that in the trivia.
No.
I
Did
feel like
the
that
buyer
would've-
fake
that
a heart
would've-
attack?
Yeah, he was having chest pain, so he had to retire at Florida.
Propaganda.
So, go coach Ohio State.
So before we get into that, though, Logan Lucky has a crazy good cast, lots of good people in here. So we're going to go around and we're going to talk about some recommendations of movies featuring some of the actors in this movie.
Yeah, not all of them would be in the other films. It's just, pick your favorite-ish.
We're going to pick an actor and recommend
we're
another
picking
movie
someone.
by that
pick- yeah.
person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with Andrew. What do you got?
So this is actually a pretty recent one. Came out this year,
Oh, wow.
2022. Just in case you're listening to this in 2023 for whatever reason.
For some reason. Or 2021.
Or 2030,
So this
2050.
stars
This could be
Sandra Bullock,
okay.
Channing Tatum,
Oh,
has
Lost City.
Brad Pitt,
Lost City.
and Daniel Radcliffe in it.
Lost
And yes,
City.
Oh.
it is The Lost City.
Okay.
So this is a modern kind of take of Romancing the Stone.
Okay.
If you're familiar with the 1980s.
That's a classic.
Classic, kind of action adventure.
The sequel, Jewel of the
romance.
Nile, does not hold up
It does
as much as the first.
no.
Romancing the Stone is the superior.
It's the superior product.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read off the summary here.
Okay.
So a reclusive romance novelist on a book tour with her cover model gets swept up in a kidnapping attempt that lands them both in a cutthroat jungle adventure. So very, very similar to Romancing the Stone. Channing Tatum is the cover model, dumb as a brick, but charming, right? And
Sure.
And Sandra Bullock is the author, and basically she's kind of done with her career at this point. She's over writing schlock novels for romance things, and it's honestly a really funny and solid adventure for kind of what I expected going in to be absolutely nothing.
So I just saw a piece of a trailer and it looked terrible to me. It looked like schlocky. It's probably
it's kind of one of those things where it leans heavily into it, but in a smart way.
Okay.
For most of the film, it's not a perfect film. I'd
Sure.
probably give it a solid 7.5.
Would you say it's about Sahara, that level? You remember that one?
Ish, yeah.
With Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey. Okay.
Yeah, it is not a smart film. It
Right.
is a fun film.
It's perfectly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's definitely one of those films that whenever I watched it, I just enjoyed the cast. Brad Pitt's in it for a short period of time. Sandra Bullock is funny. And Channing Tatum honestly steals the show.
Yeah.
And Daniel Radcliffe's in it. I always love watching any film with him in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's always fun.
Sure.
So I would definitely give it a shot. It's not something you should probably go out of your way to watch,
Right.
but it's definitely worth it if you just find yourself at a time where I don't know what to watch. Let's put on this.
Yeah. If it's available, give it
Yeah.
a shot.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Steven, what about you?
Okay, well, I am going with a very different take here. I'm going to back it all the way up to 2001.
Okay.
Okay.
So
It's a good year.
David Denman.
Oh, I don't even know where this is going.
So he is the guy, he plays in Logan Lucky, he plays the new husband.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
he's the
yeah,
dude
he
from
was-
The
yeah,
Office.
from
He
The
was
Office.
Pam's, what's his name?
Daryl? No.
No,
Um,
Roy.
Roy.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So he's the new husband, but in this, he's a bartender. He's a fairly minor role in the film, but the film is Out Cold.
Never even heard
I
of it.
told you I was going way off base here.
I've seen this.
Yeah, this is almost peak stoner
Oh, yeah.
college humor style
Oh,
movie.
okay.
So this is about a ski resort where the owner is just there to have fun, and all the employees who work there are just a bunch of stoners, just there to have fun, ski, drink, etc.
Mhm.
And then the owner passes away, and the son decides to sell the resort to a major corporation, a guy who like has multiple resorts, and it's going to be strict, and you're going to wear a uniform, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. And it's kind of the effort of the employees before they all get fired to sabotage this effort of the guy to sell updating this to his investors,
Yeah,
basically.
okay. Yeah.
So it's just, there's a lot of shenanigans ensue kind of thing going on. The biggest name in this movie is Zach Galifianakis
Yeah.
Okay.
as just a supporting. He's just another dude on the screen, basically. But yeah, I mean, it's just
Does that movie start with the one kid is drunk and passed out, and
Yes.
they put him in a car on ice, and they start spinning the car as if they're spinning out in a wreck, and then they
Yeah.
all scream, and he wakes up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
actually seen that opening scene
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
from Out Cold. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there's it's it's not like some cinematic peak.
It probably
hype
has some
moment.
outdated jokes that probably didn't age
absolutely. Yeah,
well.
there's-
That's
there's-
from
there's
2001.
Definitely stuff that doesn't age well, but
Yeah.
it's something that that was right when I was going into college.
Yeah.
And senior high school, going to college, and me and some of my college friends, like we'll just every once in a while just be a Saturday and just like, you know what, it's an Out Cold day. We'll put it on.
It's an out
Hang
cold
out,
day,
hang out. We're
boys.
gonna watch this.
Well, that was before Eurotrip came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We're gonna watch this. Another movie that's kind of similar to it, Grind. don't
Yeah,
know if
I know
you've
that
seen
one,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
another. We'll put that on
Mhm.
with it because there's some cast crossover. Not David Denman. Dennis Denman. David.
Well, he
Denman. I
was
had it
pretty
right.
young at that point too. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of it's
That's a
again,
random pull. Not what I expected.
Yeah, no,
I
I
told you I was
expect
going to go
that.
for because I was just going through the cast to see what they've done. Like
Yeah.
Adam Driver's kind of obvious, easy. Channing Tatum's pretty easy, and I was like, oh, what about the
Channing Tatum
husband?
hasn't been in that many movies.
Well, that's why it's easy.
Well, okay, yeah, sure.
And then I was like,
Fine.
well, what about the
low hanging fruit?
Yeah.
the husband? And I clicked, and I was like, man, he's been in a lot of stuff. And I started, I was like, oh, I saw it. I saw Out
Out
Cold.
cold. Got
Back it up.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Cool. I'm going to get on a soapbox for a minute.
Uh-oh.
So my movie is 2011 Daniel Craig thriller Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now,
All right,
the
all
reason I wanted to recommend this is because number one, David Fincher. It's a great movie.
Mhm.
Rooney Mara plays Elizabeth Salander, the hacker. I watched the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies, the ones
Like they're
They're
like
like-
Swedish.
like-
they're Swedish. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not. I was about to say Polish. It's they're Swedish.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that held those movies back was the budget.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
definitely you could see like
the seam lines.
well,
and
it felt to me, and this is not knocking it, they're very good movies. The stories, they're very accurate to the books, so much to the point that I tried to read the books after watching those movies, and I almost couldn't get through the books because I already know everything that's
Everything's gonna
happening.
happen.
Like they were very accurate,
Yeah.
very faithful to the books. It almost feels like a TV movie. Like the budget, like some of
Mhm.
Yeah.
the shots just look like a TV
and
movie.
the sets
but
or whatever just aren't there.
so when they just said they're making an American version and they got Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara in it and David Fincher's directing it, I was all about it. I was
Yeah.
so excited, right? And so, went to see it, thought it was great. I still love it. I recommend it. But the problem is it's the beginning of a trilogy that never happened. They
Yeah, 'cause
never made the
only
second.
they only
That's
made the
right.
first one.
Yeah, they never made the second or third one. So
Yep.
that I would just like to bring it up as like a interesting point in Daniel Craig's career of like he had this movie that could have been another franchise,
Mhm.
just like Bond, And is it 2011? So this is like, right after, like 4 or 5 years after Casino Royale and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's already in the Bond.
Because we're just
thing.
ignoring Quantum of Solace. It's fine.
Well, it's
It never happened.
it didn't exist.
what year did that come out? That was
like
09,
2008,
08?
2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a couple years after that, but this was like one of the bigger movies he did that was like not a Bond movie.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know if it was his attempt not to get, shoehorned into just
Typecast,
typecast
yeah.
being Bond, but it just, I never looked up why. I don't know. I don't think it did great at the box office.
I think that was it. It didn't have the
mostly
kind of box
didn't.
office reception.
I think,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those stories where I think it really calls a certain type of viewer to it.
Yeah.
And if you are not that type of viewer, you're probably not going to like the movie.
Well, and that too, when you think about the turn around 2010, 2011, that
Mhm.
was really that era where all studios were pushing for everything to be PG-13. And
Yep.
it's definitely a hard R.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
there's,
so,
there's a
Yeah.
lot of objectionable content
Yeah,
in
there's
there.
Oh, yeah.
definitely content warnings on that one.
Yeah, well, and it's also one of those films too, because like you said, it's kind of coming off of the really hard realism that a lot of people were pushing for from 2008 to about 2011-ish.
it probably feels like the studios are probably obviously why it didn't keep
Yeah.
going or whatever. But
I would actually looking at that's what I would go with. So it had a $90 million budget and it box office was $240 million. So it's considered a commercial
seems like
success.
it did pretty good.
Yeah, it's considered a commercial
So it's
success.
probably the companies that are like, this is probably not going to be kosher anymore.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
They also had apparently a lot of scheduling issues with Daniel Craig because of his other shootings. That could
Mhm.
also
Because
be a
of
problem.
Skyfall, probably.
Yeah.
So
James
anyways,
Bond more than likely pays more.
I would almost
You would assume so.
1,000,000% guarantee that. Okay, well let's transition from that into our discussion about Logan Lucky.
Yeah.
We'll start off with a plot summary. So, hoping to reverse a curse that has hung over his family for generations, Jimmy Logan, played by Channing Tatum, hatches a plan to rob the Charlotte Motor Speedway during the Coca-Cola 600, NASCAR's biggest race of the year. He convinces his bartender brother Clyde, played by Adam Driver, and a hairdresser sister Melly. I always want to say Millie. It's
Melly.
played by Riley Keough, to help him pull everything off. But first, they have to break the bomb maker Joe Bang, played by Daniel Craig, out of jail in broad daylight. So, Academy Award winner Hilary Swank plays a no-nonsense FBI agent determined to bring the Logans to justice and keep them from racing away with the loot in this high-speed caper from Academy Award-winning director Steven Soderbergh. So, Logan Lucky came out in 2017.
Mhm.
It was directed by Steven Soderbergh, who did Ocean's 11 is probably the thing that most
Yeah.
people are familiar with him with. It's another heist movie, and I would say one of the
best.
gold standard heist movies. I
for
think
modern.
it'll probably come up a lot during this episode, just comparisons,
Mhm.
because same director, both heist movies.
Yeah.
He did Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, and Magic Mike.
Yeah. And Aaron Brockovich is a fantastic film.
Soderbergh's a good director.
Yeah.
Guy knows what he's doing.
Mhm.
It was written by Jules Asner. Do you remember that name?
Nope.
Former E! Talk show host.
Okay.
I remember her back in the day from like watching E! Late at night, being like, what was that one show that used to come on? I can't remember now. But they had all the hosts. It was almost like the VJs on MTV back in the day. And Jules Asner was one of the hosts.
Okay.
And
I'm just gonna take your word for this.
yeah, no,
I don't know what's going on.
what was the show? My college roommates used to watch it, and I can't remember what the name of it
Beverly
was.
Hills 90210.
No. It was like
What?
it was
No.
E! It was like
I
Wild and Out with Brooke Burke or something like
I
that.
don't know, yeah.
It was something like that. Anyways, Jules Asner was on there as like one of their little hosts or
Yeah.
whatever. She's the wife of Steven Soderbergh, and she wrote it under the pseudonym Rebecca Blunt. So
Okay.
like for a while, everybody was like, "Did Steven really write this?" Like this Rebecca Blunt has no credits. It's the only movie she's ever written. So Jules Asner
She did a really good job.
Yeah.
came out of the gate with Logan Lucky
Yeah.
and never wrote anything else after that. It was like, I did it. I'm going to the house. Call me when you need a host on E! Starring Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, Daniel Craig, Riley Keough. Riley Keough, by the way, she was in Mad Max Fury Road.
Yep.
She's one of the
One of
daughters.
Yeah.
She's Elvis Presley's granddaughter.
Oh, I didn't
She's
know
the
that.
daughter
Yes.
of Lisa Marie Presley.
That's
yeah.
actually really cool.
When I looked that up, I was like, whoa, okay.
So was the
fact.
show on E called Wild On?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I just looked her up on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Okay.
Simple research,
There you go. Wild On.
Wow.
Jules
That's
Asner
rude.
was on
Heyo.
Wild On E!
I get my shots in where I can.
Seth MacFarlane's in this, the voice of Family Guy and you
Yep.
know, creator of several animated shows
The
on Fox.
Orville. Don't forget
And the
Orville.
Orville. Yes, Orville too. Katie Holmes and Dwight Yoakam. I had to throw Dwight Yoakam in there because anytime he's in a movie, I like that guy. I love me some Dwight Yoakam. He plays the warden in this
I was
movie.
going
he's
to
the
say he
warden.
plays the
Yeah.
warden, doesn't he? Yeah. That's a warden name.
It was composed, quote unquote, by David Holmes, although like most of the songs are just like, he basically made a soundtrack. Like he
Yeah.
picked
Yeah.
other songs.
Yeah,
It
mo-
wasn't, there
most of
wasn't
the
a whole
stuff
lot
is-
of
excluding any kind of John Denver songs that they
right.
used.
Well,
Yeah, but there
are
wasn't a whole lot of
other. There's a lot of
compositions.
other songs that aren't just like John Denver.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was good.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cinematography was by Peter Andrews, which is actually Steven Soderbergh. He is the cinematographer on every one of his movies, and he always puts it down as Peter Andrews.
Why?
I don't know.
That's so
This started
weird.
back in the day. I think there used to be some kind of a rule where
It may
like
have been like
couldn't
you
a,
had to
a
have a
guild
pseudonym.
rule.
yeah, you couldn't be the director and cinematographer. So he started going under the pseudonym of Peter Andrews and then just did it as like a
As
just
a
kept
thing.
it
thing.
going.
Yeah.
Huh.
total box office was only 48.5 million. That's worldwide.
Which is
Wow.
pretty low.
That's so
very
low.
low. Yeah. With 27.8 million coming from domestic. So
Yeah.
even locally,
That's
not doing great.
not a very successful film considering.
What's the budget?
No. I did not find the budget. I forgot to look that up. I can look it up real fast though.
Simple research.
Okay, the budget was 29 million estimated.
Okay, so it definitely
It made
Either
its
it-
budget back.
it
maybe the
barely
marketing.
broke even, or it
Yeah.
lost money based on
It
marketing.
lost probably a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably lost a little bit. Some fun facts here. So Soderbergh retired from directing. He retired and walked away from filmmaking, and the reason was because he said Hollywood was taking power away from filmmakers. Right?
Probably not untrue.
No, definitely not. So to distribute this movie, he basically cut out studios entirely. No studio was involved. Actual Hollywood studio was
Yeah.
involved in this movie. The way he did that was he raised the budget by selling off all the foreign distribution rights, so
Oh, wow.
screenings overseas. He went ahead and sold HBO, Netflix, and like in-flight movie stuff.
They had it on Amazon Prime for free for a while.
Yeah, but he sold all of that before they even made the movie. So he
Wow.
basically went to HBO and was like, "You can have rights to this movie. How much will you give me? Netflix, you can have the rights.
That's awesome.
for streaming. How much will you give me? Hey, Delta Airlines, you can have
Yeah.
it. How much?" And then took that money to basically fund
Huh.
the movie.
That's awesome.
Basically everything except for the U.S. Distribution.
Yeah.
And so here, so he used that to basically pay for the U.S. showings in
Mhm.
theaters, and then to do movie prints and all that kind of stuff. And he sidestepped the studio system to the point that he got to have complete creative control, even over the marketing.
It honestly shows.
Yeah, like everything, the marketing plan, the posters, the trailers, all of it was his
Thing.
his
Yeah.
thing. Like nobody had a hand in any
Man,
of it. but
that's
him.
actually really cool. I didn't know that.
So if you like this movie or don't, it's Steven Soderbergh's fault for the most part. Okay, so that is the trivia on this movie. I thought that was very interesting that he left movie making
Yeah.
basically and was like, I'm done. Like they're taking too much creative control away. And then I guess in his 5 years,
well, maybe his
Or-
wife was like, "Hey, I got an idea for a
I was
movie."
going to say, so he's sitting at the couch. Jules Asner walks in and says, "Check this script out, pow." And he's like, "Whoa, we should make this movie. But let's sidestep the system. We'll sell everything about it,
Well, and especially with him getting all of these big named actors
yeah.
in
Yeah.
here for essentially a movie that isn't Hollywood.
I mean, he definitely has connections.
Oh, of course.
Well, and when you look at the budget, if it's only 29 million,
no,
these
no one
actors
made a
must
ton
have been
of
doing
money.
this for
Yeah.
For
free.
free. Yeah.
They were just happy to be part of a Steven Soderbergh movie.
Yeah.
And from my just light Googling, what I haven't seen anybody that didn't like working with Steven Soderbergh. Like
Yeah.
most people that worked
Oh,
with him,
no negative commentary
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
That's good.
And the one fun thing they did on the poster and in the credits is, and I don't know why the inside joke this is, but it says, "And introducing Daniel Craig." Like he's like an unknown name or something.
Yeah.
And this is like
This is-
2017. So we're like multiple Bond movies in with
Yeah.
this guy. So
He just wants to be known
So-
again as that actor who does Southern accents.
yeah. So what did we give it for score?
we gave it an 8. Our scoring system is each of us rate this movie across 5 different categories. We go spectacle, performance, score, plot, and entertainment. We took those scores. We mixed them up in a bag with bleach and gummy bears. We shoved them into a pneumatic tube. And after they exploded, we were left with the overall score, which is an 8 for Logan Lucky. How do you guys feel about that as an overall score?
I feel that is very fair.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a good score. It's a good movie.
Okay. So spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
So this is one of my. So I love the Ocean's films, right? I love heist films. The original Italian Job is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Blow the bloody doors off.
Not the one with
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. But this one was kind of like a sleeper hit to where like it was free on Amazon
Mhm.
when, like 2018 or whatever. And we just threw it on because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we were just blown away by how funny it was. The cast was obviously great.
Yeah.
And honestly, just the general heist felt very genuine, and the whole movie had a lot of heart to it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to not enjoy it. I don't know. I mean, like it's this is I've seen this movie like almost 10 times at this point.
Holy cow.
Yeah, because we'll just throw it on.
Yeah.
Whenever we're just like hanging out at home,
Just
and,
have it on in the
building
background.
models or whatever, and just have it on the background.
Yeah. Steven, what do you think?
It's funny because I'm coming in with a very different. I don't know, Ryan. How many times have you seen it?
This would be, I think, 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say.
So this is the first time I've seen the movie,
Okay.
and I am a fan of heist movies. Andrew will
Yep.
know and understand. I love me a good heist.
Yeah.
So I love the fact, because I think it's a perfect moniker for the film, that it's Ocean 7-Eleven. But I also hate that the film coined that term itself.
Oh, yeah. That would have been better if it was like not
If it wasn't just said in the
Yeah.
middle
said
of the
in the
film.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because it implies that this happens in the same universe
That the Ocean's movie
Ocean's
exists.
movies happened in, yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So it's either
Not the same universe that the Ocean's heist happened in, but that
But the
the movie
movie-
But the
Ocean's.
movie,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's very, very real world at that point, or
Yeah.
almost too meta.
It's
Obviously-
a little meta.
Obviously, he can
Blame
use the
Steven
term.
Soderbergh. He's
He's got
solely
no
responsible
creative
for all
control.
of this. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right, where we keep watching TV shows and films, and I keep seeing actors. This is it. This is the obligatory Star Wars reference, and I see people like Adam Driver not in Star Wars, and all I
Mhm.
can say is just, man, they just keep wasting talent.
In
'Cause
Star
he's-
Wars.
In Star
In
Wars.
Star Wars,
Because
to be
he's so
clear, yeah.
good. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
so good outside of that. You know, same thing for like Oscar Isaac.
I would say even in
Boyega.
Star Wars, though, you see glimpses of
no,
Adam
he-
Driver being
He's
good.
trying, right?
Yeah.
He's trying real
Yeah.
hard to get above that material. It's just,
Sure.
it's hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're given things that aren't that
Yeah.
good, you do what you can with them. So Ryan,
Yeah.
what did you think?
So I like it overall. I think for me, the only thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't have the pacing and the energy of like the Ocean's movies,
That's true,
specifically
yeah.
Ocean's 11.
See,
it's a slower burn.
So I actually really liked that change.
Yeah.
Because with Ocean's 11, like it's the glitz and the glam
It
of
is, yeah.
Vegas, kind of life in the fast lane. And this is the setting for this with West Virginia is definitely a much slower pace of life.
Definitely. And it reflects that. I mean, I don't dislike it necessarily for that, but I do feel like it's, for me, like Ocean's 11, I can watch any time it is on.
Well, and
because
just be
it's
honest,
I'm
just,
the same way. Like
background
I love Ocean's 11.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like that's
It is
absolutely
fun.
one of those.
It is action packed. It is quick. It's quippy. This is, like you said, a lot slower, a lot more methodical. Cinematography is great. All the
Mhm.
characters are a lot of fun. So I enjoy this movie, but I would not put it, like if I was ranking Steven Soderbergh movies, it would
Yeah.
be below Ocean's 11
Yeah.
for me personally.
I mean, I
That's
think
fair.
Ocean's 11 is probably his peak. Like
Yeah,
film.
it's going to be hard to.
it's definitely his most like audience pleasing, wide reaching film. He's got some that are really good, but they're kind of niche and they're, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know if they would.
So the thing that I really did like about this compared to like the Ocean's films was that the cast is a little bit smaller
Yes.
Mhm.
for the
Yeah.
main players.
And they're the people, the individuals in the cast aren't they're not all the big charismatic screen hogs, right?
Yeah, and they're not all the normal archetypes that you see
In a heist.
in a heist.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very unique heist movie on that level where
Mhm.
like the characters, the players are not the money man, and then you've got the
hacker.
The hacker,
Yeah.
like they take the West Virginia, tropes of people and go, all right, this
I
is
know
our
all the
our crew.
Googles.
I'm
all the
down,
Twitters.
I'm down with the Twitters.
Yeah. So who do you guys think this movie is for? Who should watch this?
I mean, if you are a fan of heist movies, right? I mean, if you're an Ocean's 11 fan,
Right.
Watch this film.
like you're already a Soderbergh fan. Is it a bit different? Is it a little slower paced? Is the setting, very different? That kind of thing. Sure, but if you like a heist movie, then you should put this on your list.
hmm
It may not end up at the top of your list, but it should still be seen on your list.
And I tried to pitch this movie for Steven specifically for years until I finally forced him because we have a podcast that reviews
it
movies.
infuriates him that he'll be like, "Well, you should watch this," and I just ignore it.
So who should avoid this movie? Like, who do you think?
People that don't like fun.
Okay, valid.
Now the flip side here is it
Yeah.
is slower paced.
It
right?
is, yeah, it
It
is
is.
a slow pace.
and
Well,
you can feel that.
I would say if you are looking for another Ocean's 11, this may not fit the bill. Like it's definitely different enough. I think that enough of the DNA is there to where if you love Ocean's 11, you can probably find something in this to love. But if you're looking for something that's quick, There's a lot of like, glitz and
Quippy.
glamour and like.
Well, even
Yeah.
the dialogue, right? There's not really the quick comeback. It's a
Right.
much more slower response. It's clever in its own way.
It's dry
Yeah.
humor.
It is dry
it's
humor.
very
It's a
dry.
bit more dry.
So, something else I would say too, I feel that if you are Southern or familiar with Southern tropes, you may actually find it a lot funnier than what someone if they lived up like in the Northeast or something like that.
If you've lived only in a city all your life, you're not going to get some jokes.
I come from a backwoods town in Tennessee, and let me tell you, there are some things that hit too close to home.
Oh yeah.
In this movie, where you're seeing people do things that you're like, oh, that I know a dude.
Yep.
That did that. I know a guy that has been in that situation. Yeah.
We'll have to sit down one time and share some stories about my wife's family.
Oh boy,
they have. But yeah, basically some of the interactions. Well, that just sounds like my uncle.
Right. Well, this is a surprise.
What you say there, Joe Bang? Ain't seen you in a while. How goes it?
Well, sitting on this side of the spoiler wall wearing a onesie. How do you think it's going?
Well, you look good.
Real good. Fit like.
So you want to talk business?
Well, we got a job for you. A website.
If you think I don't already know about spoilersintendedpodcast.com, then you too must be as simple-minded as they say.
People say that?
What is it you two need?
We need somebody to promote spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
It's just like the one you promoted in another episode.
Links to Discord, social, previous episode.
Yep, they're all there.
Patreon? You sneeze within 10 foot of a spoilersintendedpodcast.com and its Patreon bonus episodes will have you covered up in content before you know what happened. Besides, I should probably lay low for a while.
This has to happen right now.
I am incarcerated.
We got a plan for that.
All right, that means we're now past the spoiler wall, so it's all spoilers all the time. Before we get into our individual scores, does anybody have anything they'd like to say that is filled with spoilers now that we're in spoiler territory?
I mean, I feel like you just invited me to say stuff like Snape kills Dumbledore or something, you know?
Okay, well, you just said it. So
Yeah,
I mean,
just bringing it right out of me.
Just, I mean, like that.
Any spoilers of Logan Lucky that you'd like to throw in before we get to our scores?
I mean, not really. No.
Okay,
Not yet.
well, let's get right into it
Let's
then.
get into it.
All right, so let's start with spectacle. Who wants to lead off?
I want Steven to go first.
Let's hear it from Steven.
okay, all
First time watcher, Steven.
So I gave Spectacle an 8.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it felt really well shot. It's very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real big flashy moments.
No,
right?
there's no flexing of like cinematography skills.
Yeah. Well, so
Necessarily.
Yeah.
It's like, but it is in a way, it's a weird,
Because
there's a
it's-
lot of restraint.
Yeah.
It's a lot of very smartly planned out shots.
it's a very smooth and restrained. But I
Yeah.
think, right, we've all seen Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
And when you show me a NASCAR race,
Yeah.
and the race car driver wipes out and goes into the grass, it needs to look like the car was going 50 before it hit the grass,
Yeah.
because that car might have been going forward. It really looked incredibly slow.
It was going pretty slow.
And stuff like that kind of sticks out. And that was your opportunity to have something that's a little amped up, right? Even within the setting of the scenario. I loved kind of just the portrayal of everyday life throughout, and just sort of the routine, the ups and the downs, these things, because it's very simple, and
Mhm.
it's, we're in Alabama, right? There's a lot there to be familiar with. You're from Tennessee, and
Mhm.
like it sometimes a little too close to home.
Well,
but-
and
Yeah, there were a few moments. But the for the cinematography though, like a lot of the shots, a lot of the
Mhm.
locations they shot at, the costuming, like the way people looked,
Oh, yeah.
felt perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Dead on.
Well, and it's definitely one of those at the end of the film, whenever he just goes up and picks up his daughter just in his Lowe's outfit,
Yeah.
is just it's just one of those things where it's just like that's exactly what it would be.
Well, and it's subtle, but it's like that stuff is huge when you
Yeah.
think about it. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
overall impact of it.
Yeah. Ryan, what did you think?
I also gave it an 8. And looking at my notes, I said literally the same things you did, Steven.
This is what happens when you let me go first.
Yeah, like I think the shots are really composed, really smartly, really well. There's no like Spielberg oneer that goes on for 9 minutes.
No, yeah.
I think the one thing that like I would knock it down a little bit is that there isn't anything that is like just spectacular. There's nothing that is like that's cinematography gold right here.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of stuff that definitely shows that Steven Soderbergh knows how to do directing and cinematography.
As his
and
own cinematographer.
there are a lot of shots that are just composed perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
And again, when you have this, West Virginia landscape, you don't really think of it as like this beautiful area, but there's some shots that like, even if it's like a ratty gas station, like the way it's framed, you're like, this is so cool. It's kind of a low angle. You see the tire of the Mustang and the gas station behind it, like, so it's just solid across the board, but nothing just mind-blowing.
But even right at the start, when it's just him talking to his daughter, right? You have in the background, you have the mountains in the background, and it's not the grand sweeping vista kind of shot, but it's much simpler and restrained. But you still have that out there. They still make use of it to really put you in the right setting.
Yeah.
I would almost say that like the more subdued moments are the better shot moments. Like when he's
Absolutely.
in the truck. He just got fired, which, by the way, shout out to Channing Tatum for throwing his hard hat and nailing the...
I wonder how many takes that took.
I don't know, but like he threw it, it hits the thing, closes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Also, throwing the phones in the burning car. Everybody that throws anything in this movie nails it first try.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the movie, they probably did a million takes, but like it looks great.
Well, yeah, whenever Adam Driver just throws the brick and
that is a throw and a half.
I know. But so what I was trying to say though is like when he's just got fired and he's in the truck and he's driving and he
scene.
puts on the
yeah.
CD to try to like, clear his head and calm down. Like just the way that whole thing unfolds, the sound of the music coming out of the CD
that's
player.
in my thing for performance.
Well,
Stop taking my point.
I'm talking about the way it was shot.
You let
Yeah.
him go ahead
Yeah.
of you.
That your performance is my spectacle. Yeah, the way it was, the way that whole scene was shot and all that stuff. The stuff was great. Some of the maybe the heistier moments are where it struggles a little bit, where it's not as big and grand. And not that it's bad.
It's a restrained.
It's
kind of
restrained.
setting.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where Soderbergh nails it. That those small moments.
Yeah. So I also gave it an 8.
Hey,
8 across the board.
Basically for the exact same reasons. But I will absolutely say, because we haven't mentioned it yet, I loved all of basically the lifestyle shots of the opening ceremony for the Coca-Cola 600.
Oh yeah, just the feel of being in a NASCAR stadium.
The shot of the two helicopters, and then the
that
dude
was a
like
good
taking
shot.
a selfie with the guys coming down from the
ropes.
helicopters. Oh man, it was so cool.
It's just such a perfect encapsulation of that life, right?
I'm assuming that they just, because the budget was so small, they just probably went to the Coca-Cola 600 and just shot.
Well, again, not to appeal to my other NASCAR
Is the Coca-Cola
knowledge.
600 an actual race? I don't know.
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
Charlotte.
Yeah,
cool.
But Talladega Nights, right? They did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford this many extras to fill
an
a
entire
race
stadium.
arena.
Yeah.
They just went. They
Yeah.
filmed. So the scene, again, not related to this movie, but the scene where he runs down the tarmac in his underwear screaming was just filmed in front of the Talladega race before the race was ran. So it's just a whole bunch of people in the stands like, what's going on?
What is happening? Yeah. Well, it's probably expensive too to get that many stock cars in one place.
Yeah.
So like, there's
It's just easier to
just
get the rights
go to the
do
game
it. Yep.
day and just get it shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, the whole film was shot very competently, and it was, the shot in the car of him like just getting fired was great, and I just the whole bar fight scene with Clyde like walking out and getting the
Molotov,
getting the Molotov and the light and everything. It was just perfect.
Earl, you got a light?
Yeah.
Well, and it's definitely one of those things where like if you probably pissed off a bartender, in a very local
West
town,
Virginia.
this is probably a very realistic thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to performance. I think we're all itching to get into this one. Andrew, you want to jump in? Since you're...
So I gave it an 8.
Nice.
And kind of like we were just saying, like Channing Tatum did such a fantastic job at just kind of being that like blue collar, that's just his whole life. Especially, I really like this scene with him and his love interest. I can't remember her name.
Sylvie.
Sylvie, yeah.
Yeah. That whole initial scene where he's like getting his blood drawn and everything, or
tetanus
shot.
Tetanus shot. There we go.
Yeah.
Getting the tetanus shot, and just their whole interaction was honestly fantastic.
That interaction feels like how people actually flirt.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of movies where like
It's so over the
top, or it's
Mhm.
like it's just people don't say phrases like that. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of
Nobody talks like
and,
that.
And,
Like,
and
awkwardness that's like
Mhm.
well done.
yeah, and the frosting on the cake or icing on the cake, excuse me, was whenever she's leaving and then he runs back up and he's like, "Did we kiss?"
Yeah,
She's
it's so
like,
good.
That's
And
the worst thing
her
anyone's ever
reaction.
said to me.
And that is exactly how you would think that interaction would go.
yeah.
When they clearly have like some kind of like flirty connection, and
Yeah.
then he's like, I remember you.
Well,
Yeah.
her whole like, but you only had eyes for some other girl.
Yeah.
It was like, oh well, she was totally into him in high school. Like, immediately.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was the girl she was talking about, was that Katie Holmes'
Yes.
character? I think it was.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think so.
So
Yeah,
it
there's
was-
no way they
she's like
weren't
the
high
homecoming
school
queen.
sweetheart.
Yeah. Okay.
the local football star. and the homecoming
Someone else.
queen.
Okay,
Yeah.
Steven, what'd you give it?
Oh, I'm gonna steal everything from you.
Do it.
I gave it a 9.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I
it was borderline 9 to 8 for me.
I
Yeah.
actually I crossed out 8 and put a 9.
Yeah.
I had to make a decision. I'm a huge fan of. I like Tatum's performance. Don't get me wrong. I think he might actually be able to cheat a little. He is from Coleman, Alabama.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So
he's from Alabama.
He's got a lot to pull from here for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not positive about Adam Driver. Where
He's
where
from
he's
the,
from.
He's from the south as
Is he
well.
from
He's
Mississippi
from
or something
somewhere.
Like that?
Yeah,
Texas?
Yeah.
but I mean, like,
Someone look that up. Anyways,
yep.
I loved his performance. I thought it was great. It's not just the vocal. Like I came into this movie ready to just blow them up for bad Southern accents.
yeah,
and
he did a good job.
no, he did. And the mannerisms were so well done on his end, where he doesn't say a lot. He doesn't have to say a lot because you can just see it in the way he hesitates or he looks nervous.
Adam Driver was born in the southern city of San Diego, California.
Nope,
Nope.
that doesn't count.
Sorry.
All right.
Well, maybe it's just because I knew he went into the Marines.
he went to the Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to be from the south. Into the Marines.
Who else goes into the Marines? What's wrong with those people? Another point I wrote out here was I really loved Channing Tatum's chemistry and the way he worked with his daughter, Farrah McKenzie.
fantastic. Yeah.
Their interactions are so
The
good.
opening scene where he's working on the car,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like you can tell that they actually have some good chemistry.
Yeah.
Just
Well, now that scene felt unrealistic because I remember these scenes and from real life, and in those scenes, all I was told was how poorly I hold a flashlight.
I feel
He
like
didn't
this is
need a
more of
flashlight.
a commentary
Yeah,
on your
more
family. If your dad was Channing Tatum, he wouldn't have been. Also, if you'd held the flashlight right, like you understand
Right,
that,
yeah.
right? Like just shine it where you got to shine it, man.
She knew what a socket wrench was and what.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
pliers,
Did he?
needle or regular.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also the scene at the end of the movie, right, when he picks her up and she's talking about, oh, I'm not into pageants anymore. I'm
Yeah.
into culinary arts. And he's kind of egging her on about what it is.
Yeah.
And, well, the paddles, oh, well, or Dasher, oh, I didn't know reindeers made food.
Yeah.
And, like, it's such a perfect line. And the interplay between them is just way too good.
I'll jump in. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
I was kind of the same way of like between an 8 and a 9.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I ultimately docked it for other people.
Mhm.
So Katie Holmes had a terrible Southern accent.
Yes.
Hers was not
Hers
very
was-
good.
Yes.
Diabolically bad.
Yeah.
I thought, Daniel Craig did great. I think he
For an Australian, he does a good job.
right. His like, transformation into that character, which another tiny bit of trivia, like they didn't have a like, this is what you should look like thing. So when Steven Soderbergh got Daniel Craig to do it, Daniel Craig's like, so what do I do? He's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And so he went that night, like bleached his hair and sent pictures to Steven Soderbergh. And he's like, yeah, man, works.
Yeah, good enough.
And
That's
so
awesome.
that's like what they went with. But I think the dynamic between Channing Tatum and his daughter is great. When she sings the song at the end, I was like, oh man, I teared up a little bit because they do a good job throughout the movie of just peppering in those interactions with him and her where it feels realistic. It feels like the conversations that a father and a daughter would have with each other.
Yeah, especially essentially quotation mark an estranged father.
Right. Somebody going
Yeah.
through a divorce, trying to figure out
it's a strained
co-parenting.
relationship.
Well, especially
and-
because clearly his ex-wife does not hold him in any high regard at all,
No.
and
Yeah.
and down talks him to his daughter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Adam Driver, for me, every now and then got a little cartoonish with his accent and how like obsessed he was with the curse. Like so much of the rest of the movie feels realistic and
Yeah.
grounded that like every now and then it almost pushed into parody.
little
or
parody,
a
yeah.
little much.
Well, I feel
Not
like-
all the time, but
I
just
feel
every
like
now and then.
the parody really landed with the other Bang brothers.
Yeah, those
the-
guys weren't great either. Like for me, they were like again almost too cartoonishly.
Mhm.
I know all the Twitters, like
Yeah.
just a little bit too much on that.
So the other one that was a little bit too hard for me was the Warden. Like he
Oh,
does.
I
a
love
good,
Dwight Yoakam in
he
this. I
does.
thought
He
he
does
did
a
great.
good job.
Yeah.
But that's more of a plot related thing for me.
Oh, with him being
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. We'll get into that a little
Yeah.
later.
But for performances,
yeah, no, he did. He did a good
anytime I
job.
see Dwight Yoakam
Yeah.
in a movie,
well,
it
he
always
fits
surprises me.
the prison warden look.
He's got
Well-
that.
well,
the kind
also-
of sleazy.
he's just kind of like an overpowered principal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of a poorly run high school.
Yeah.
yeah,
So so let's move on to score. Andrew, you want to jump in?
yeah. I gave it an 8.
Okay, nice.
Ah, sensing a trend here.
So, I love John Denver. He's
yes.
just a great
Yes.
great artist.
Yeah.
And basically anytime you have the West Virginia song in there, like in
Country
in a
Roads?
Country Roads,
Yeah.
I am there.
I'm a full disclosure. I docked at a point because that night it was still stuck in my head. I was like, I'm punishing him for this.
You did this to me.
You did this to me.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite, just kind of like general country songs. That's country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's folk, it's Americana.
yeah,
It's, I think
I'm-
it's
I would
within the
consider
realm
it
of-
country. I mean, it certainly doesn't fit in with modern country
No.
now.
no.
But
But
for
when
the
it came out in
time,
the 70s, yeah.
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 But the rest of the soundtrack honestly was pretty nice. I enjoyed it. It was everything kind of fit to the scenes. Nothing ever really felt out of place. They always had a pretty solid track in the background. I felt it never really
Yeah.
did it, and I liked the whenever they did the reveal of like kind of like some of the behind the scenes things of like what he was doing to basically control the situation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That whole track was fantastic.
Yeah. I'll jump in. I
Yeah.
gave it a 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I docked it mostly because, I agree with you, like the John Denver stuff is great.
Yep.
I think the heist music is good heist music. The problem with it is it could work for almost any heist movie.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fair.
And
Yeah,
that,
it's
like a
very
lot
stock.
of the
Yeah.
dum like it works. It's good. It fits the scene.
Was that Chippendale Rescue Rangers? Is that what you were playing that from?
Dales?
No. Like the actual. Have you seen that?
The newest
Yeah.
movie? No.
Well,
you-
one,
you-
spare yourself.
Okay,
Two,
cool.
they have an infiltration scene, and it's just the most generic heist music ever.
right.
Yeah.
So I liked the heist music. I thought it was
Mhm.
good. But again, I feel like they hit on something with the John Denver and stuff where they could have
They could've-
taken heist music and made it sound more like it was from Appalachia.
From Country
that
Roads.
could have been really fun.
That would have
Yeah.
been, I would have, been over the moon for that.
and that could be some limitations on the general budget.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
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 And again, all of it worked. You could take a lot of those heist
Yeah.
songs and put them underneath footage from the Italian Job, underneath footage
Yeah, and
from
it would work
Oceans, and
basically
it would
there,
work.
yeah.
Dude.
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
And again, preface that with I knocked it a whole point for getting
because,
Country Roads.
because Country Roads
just
got
getting
stuck
stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I love John Denver. Don't get me started. The true mark of a great artist is that they do something with the Muppets.
Uh-huh.
And John Denver has a whole album of Christmas songs with the Muppets, so
Yep.
therefore top tier.
Therefore, he is the best artist that has ever.
This is how it works. This is how it works. You can't argue that. I liked the heisty pieces, but I do think they could have done more to fit it in with the Appalachia setting,
Yeah.
and I think that would have worked a little better. But I mean, your other stuff in the background, they had like Forsaken Son in there,
Mhm.
a couple other pieces that are just perfect, kind of your classic Southern rock / country mix
Yeah.
that just fits the area so well. It's almost borderline makes it feel like, well, this movie could have happened in 1989
Mhm.
or modern day, ignoring cell phones and these kind
Yeah,
of things.
sure.
But for the music itself,
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you guys give plot, Andrew?
Okay, so I'll start it off. I think I was maybe a little bit too kind. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
I had it as a 6, and then after I was kind of writing it down, I bumped it up to a 7. But it's borderline. So my biggest issue with generally any kind of heist film is how much does the heist actually pin itself on the actions of people they can't control,
Yeah.
yes.
or luck, basically.
I feel like me and you are going to be very similar on this score.
Yeah. So the big thing for me was the warden himself, like, just doesn't make sense of why. Like, I understand, like, from the idea of, like, oh, a southern prison warden that doesn't want any trouble because he wants to keep his job. He's
Sure.
overpowered in that kind of position. He doesn't want to risk it.
And
I get
he's
that.
probably overconfident
Mhm.
in his,
Exactly.
like, fire,
But
we don't have fires.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, in a general real world scenario, someone there would have taken over from that more than likely.
Something would have happened.
Something would have happened that would have sped up the process of him unlocking the prison from whatever, riot or whatever was happening.
Yeah.
And that basically tanks their entire plan. The one thing I will say, though, is the actual mechanics of the heist outside of the prison break actually make a decent amount of sense, and it works pretty well enclosed in itself.
Right.
And mostly just because, like, the tube system that they use does exist. And,
Sure, yeah.
And, like,
I don't know that it necessarily exists in the Charlotte
Yeah,
Speedway,
it probably
but
doesn't exist there, but it exists somewhere. It was still a really smart film for what I felt it was. It has a lot of heart, and that's what really gets me whenever I'm watching these. And like I said, performance was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing whenever I look at these films is, like, how much luck is involved for them to pull this off, and
Right.
the minimal amount of luck required is always better than the most amount of luck. And I felt that there was a decent amount of luck for them to actually pull this off and not get caught.
So I gave it a 7 as well.
Okay.
And we'll kick it off with what Andrew was alluding to with the pneumatic tubes and vacuums. So from 2006 to 2010,
Oh boy.
two men in France stole over $800,000 from a grocery store chain that used a pneumatic tube system to store their cash.
Wow. Really?
So they would go in and drill a hole. They would figure out where the tubes ran. They would go into the store, break in at night, drill a hole into it, and put an industrial vacuum onto it and suck the cash back out of the vault.
I wonder if they read that story and that's where they got the idea.
I'm pretty
if
sure
that's where the inspiration
Okay.
came
Yeah.
from.
Wow.
So, because that was my first thing was, well, is this how feasible is this? And just looking, I was like, oh, wow.
Turns out very.
Turns out it could be very lucrative. The next objection that I kind of wanted to go into was like the chemistry involved in his gummy bears and salt substitute. So, of course, getting into that was kind of weird because
he spelled it out on the wall, though. That means it's real.
So his chemical formula, from what I can remember of high school chemistry, which is a long time ago, don't quote me, was actually pretty good. And I love that scene just for the entertainment value of him exasperated trying to explain to it.
my thought every time was like, where'd the chalk come from? Where did he get?
Well, okay, so a note for there. One, they're at a construction site.
Sure.
Not terribly unrealistic that there would be chalk around.
No.
However, they're also in a cinder block room. You can use cinder block to basically write on another cinder block.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
What he does not work. Like if you go home and buy 2 bleach pens, some gummy bears, and throw them in a plat, it's not going to work.
Don't dare me to do this tonight.
Well, so this is this is why it doesn't work. If AMC it puts out Breaking Bad and Breaking Bad teaches Jimmy John how to make meth at home, they're gonna get sued.
Stop making those sandwiches, Jimmy John. Make this meth.
I really wanted a Southern name, and I was like, that's a sandwich. Roll with it.
Stop making them turkey toms and get these bleach pens in here.
But the actual chemistry is rough. And there's actually a demo that's done with gummy bears where they show the sugar burning.
Yeah.
It's just the chemicals he's working with aren't nearly pure enough to work.
But like you
But
said,
that's
though, they
totally
can't
fine.
exactly
They can't do that.
can't,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can't
Okay.
show the industrial
But
chemicals.
the general
wouldn't-
concept is correct.
Sound. Okay.
Feasible, right? So this is such a nitpicky thing, but I'm really curious, right? So they have all these tubes, and they're shooting tube money down into these vault, right?
Yeah.
Well, they took one of the tubes off to be able to vacuum out, right?
Mhm.
So where are those canisters going? They're just like hitting Adam Driver in the back or something?
So that could be a return tube.
It could be, yeah. I don't know. I was just
it could
curious.
be a return tube that they monitored that didn't have anything that was going to it.
Or like one for like a concession stands that's closed
Correct,
for some
yeah.
reason
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
out of order.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just one of those funny things where I was thinking about
I
it
didn't
later.
think about that
Yeah,
later.
like that was definitely one of the ideas like in my mind. I was like, okay, so they I mean, clearly they've had a lot of time down here and he's
Yeah.
seen where this goes. Like he probably noticed that there's nothing going through this while the event's going on. So that probably means that it's just not in use.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not happening. But I don't know. My biggest objection is probably at the end of just you're really relying on a lot of people who aren't particularly closely knit. Most heist movies, this is our 8th job together. We all just got out of prison. It's time to get the gang back together. They all have an incentive to maintain the same story.
Yeah.
And our Bang brothers just kind of fall off the face of the earth at the end.
Right, yeah.
And they even, when they're showing the heist, you even have Adam Driver's character say, you sure you want to trust our lives to these two? And he's like, no.
We're going to let them know what they need to know.
Yeah, but they still have more than enough information to utterly ruin anyone else.
They do, but I feel that there's some level of camaraderie because they've known each other as they've grown up.
But they violated the morality.
One of my favorite lines.
But yeah, I mean, like I don't have any horrible. There's always this risk with these kinds of movies, like where they do the big reveal, and it's just like, oh, well, he had it in his back pocket all along. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. We never showed you that. I felt like they did a good job of showing you a lot of the pieces. They didn't show you the whole scene of it, but you see Earl sitting in there smoking as a cover for the smoke, and then he's also the one moving the trash bags out and stuff like that. Where there was good explanation. It was all fairly plausible for what was going on. So
yeah, especially with basically the switch of they have like the red Tide.
The red tag,
trash bags that actually just go in the trash, and then they dig them out of the landfill.
The landfill,
yeah. Like that seems like a really good solution to getting like the cash that you want out, and then you return all the other stuff to basically be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. Oh, we got it all back. Well, we don't know exactly how. Which the other
classic
objection to it, of course, is the actual system they're using sounds terrible because they're not documenting how much cash was in that tube, Becky. I don't know. I just emptied the till.
Well, the idea though is that like the cashiers don't have time to like write it down or count it. They just throw it in the tube and it goes. And then when you empty out that vault, presumably they would count everything down there at the end of the
open the door and go in, just wading through money like Scrooge McDuck.
There are some problems there, but so my cynicism takes over there, and basically they know how much is there. They just didn't want to disclose it to the FBI.
Yeah,
or the insurance company, because they wanted to get
the maximum.
The sum that the insurance company came back with was like, that sounds good.
That sounds great. Yeah. Which, I mean, there's that character, played off kind of the semi-sleazy, makes you feel better.
It's like, well, I'm not an accountant. I wasn't in that.
We didn't get to rob a casino this time, but you still feel a little better because, this guy's probably dirty too.
So that transitions into my score. So I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Also, yeah, 7's all around. I was close on the 6 or 7.
Yeah,
I kind of
it
went
was
back
right
and
on
forth.
the border.
The things that, like, for me, outside of plot hole stuff that, like, kind of bugged me a little bit was, so I thought it was a unique heist setup. I thought the events, for the most part, unfolded satisfyingly. There has to be a degree of luck in some of it. But it was fun to watch it unfold.
Like, I know I pointed out the warden as one of those things, but the set, like, every time he did that, you knew exactly what he was going to do, and you're like, you are just burning a hole, man.
You're making it worse. So I think the pacing was a little bit slow. I think a little more than it needed to be. It is slow because of West Virginia and that, but I think it could have been picked up a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
And then it lacks a villain like an Andy Garcia type from Ocean's 11 to root against. You really are just rooting for these people to get a win more than you are against a villain. So that, for me...
The villain is the curse, Ryan. Come on.
I guess so, yeah. It's the Logan curse.
The villain is unfair companies firing employees for things that...
The villain is life.
Yeah, but he's not even really getting back at that company.
Life is the villain.
I know
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what could have maybe made it a little more sasatisfying was like if he
having an antagonist
was contracted by the Coca-Cola 600 to do this, and then he got... Or something to that effect to make it tight. Okay. I'm going to fire through some plot holes really fast. And I'm going to ask these questions, and you guys just tell me if there's an answer. Maybe I just missed it. Okay. How did they know that they would eat the cake in the vault?
Because her, the lady that they sent the cake to, like her office is in the vault to count money.
Yeah, she's a vault
Thank you.
counter.
I did not catch that. I was like, what if they...
Yeah, so...
But I still counted that, though. What if they ate it, they had a break room or something like that? Like that seems like that hinged on them eating it at her desk in the vault.
Well, this is one of those things, too, where he talks to Melly and says, well, it's time to call the banker. Like, it's such a small town. They all know how everything works. You just talk. You just heard this person's life story. Guaranteed.
Yeah, especially because it is a small town. Like, more than likely, especially, she seemed like a very like secluded person.
I mean, we got hit with the whole, she's a crazy cat lady at the end, which is kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't like that trope, but
because you're a crazy cat lady.
I am a
Because he is a crazy cat lady.
but it's one of those things where it's not out of the ordinary that they would just eat it at her desk.
Yeah.
Because she's the one that received it.
So the rest of these then are all basically the same. They're just like this hinged on this thing happening. So like they posed as exterminators to come in and tell them.
Yeah.
Did they get jobs as exterminators? Do they know somebody on the extermination team that got them temporarily in there? When Joe Bang drank the water, the bad water, and that's what made him throw up? What if it had hit him sooner or later? Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of like, that was convenient. What if the nurse had just refused to let him go to the bathroom?
Well, then you just got to wheedle your way into it. I mean, she kind of did refuse, and he kind of has to.
Well, then, and how did Clyde just happen to be on janitor duty on the same day? Like, they don't have any control over when they're on that duty.
That's not necessarily true,
right?
You get to choose.
In jail?
I don't know if you get to choose per se, but again, having never been to jail, pretty sure the schedule is...
3 guys who've totally been to jail lots of times because we're very cool.
The schedule is very rigid and set. Like, when you're going to be...
Okay.
But
it just so happened to be that day, I guess, is, again, it's just kind of a convenience.
But it's the whole point of the timing, right? You know? Well, and even if it's like, I'm supposed to be doing this duty and you're supposed to be doing that duty. Hey, man, you want to swap? I got a candy bar.
There could be some, especially for not a federal prison. There's probably
the
some
standards are
leeway.
lower.
Yeah.
So how did they know that the passageway behind the bathroom led to the shop?
Not a clue.
No idea.
Yeah,
that was one I was like,
okay.
Yeah, there is no answer that I could give you there.
How did they know the service entrance code at the raceway?
Oh, because they had the accident. They show you in the flashback. The guy has the accident. And he has to go get in to like make a call or anything. Tells him it's Christmas, 12/25.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay, remember that. And then what if they were out of gummy bears at the concessions, or what if they didn't sell gummy bears?
There are plenty of concession stands.
But what if they just sell Reese's and like they don't sell gummy bears?
Well, no, but that's the thing. I mean, like they live in this town,
so I guess they would know.
They don't live.
No,
they don't live.
Yeah.
Well, this is Charlotte. This is almost 5 hours.
They've been to the.
They attend it. Yes.
So really, it's not so much that these can't be solved. It's that I feel like in something like Ocean's 11, Soderbergh did a better job of like showing you exactly how everything ticked and went into. The only other plot knock I would give it before we get into entertainment was just that subplot with Hilary Swank being the FBI agent and trying to get after them felt like it came in almost too late.
Yeah, it was a little too late.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, now that we're introducing this other angle, I understand why they did it and the purpose of, like she's trying to figure it out. That lets you get the exposition about they're scamming the insurance company, the raceway is, But it just felt like too little too late to add a big player like that into the mix.
It felt like a nice way to kind of show some of the back end of the heist without just doing the standard quick cuts of him doing the other stuff that you didn't see.
Which is what the Ocean's films do.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess, her going through the case is kind of...
And it also kind of felt like maybe they were hedging the bets of, her showing up at the bar at the end is kind of like, well, maybe this is how we get a sequel and if this does well kind of thing.
Right. Or I read that as like, this is the Logan curse coming true. Yeah. Like they almost got away with it and here she is across from the bar.
Knocking on the door.
Well, and I don't, it's one of the things too where like the FBI closed the case essentially,
right?
Or as far as we know that they closed the case.
So I don't know that you could say that so much as because the talk of closing the case really is with the raceway manager where he's saying, well, we're not pursuing, we're not interested in pursuing this anymore.
So it's possible too where like if for whatever reason like she's just there because she wants to be right.
Yeah.
And she wants to prove to someone or whatever, regardless of whether she catches them or not.
She's that driven agent.
Yeah. She just has to know.
Yeah. Even if it's just for her, put it in her diary when she goes to bed.
Yeah. Her memoirs.
Okay. Let's move on to entertainment. Andrew, what'd you give it?
I gave it a 10. I love this film.
Wow.
Just hands down, I will watch this film anytime you ask me.
I mean, you've already watched it like what, 10
10
times you said? So yeah.
one for each point.
Yeah, 1 point for each time. But it has a lot of heart.
Yeah.
All the chemistry between all the characters feels really good. I actually really like the brothers as characters because I knew 2 brothers that are very similar to them.
They were a great archetype. They just kind of
they're a little over the top.
Yeah.
But I just, especially the relationship with him and his daughter, I thought was just fantastic. especially at the end whenever she's singing and she finally sees him, she changes her entire routine.
Yeah, that's a great
And, like,
scene.
Yeah.
And because he hasn't been able to be there for various reasons, either he forgets or other things, and you finally get that payoff of him being there. He's going to be there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it matters if he's going to be there or not, because it just makes the scene so good, especially because she changes her routine to sing his favorite song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steven, what'd you give it?
I gave it a 9.
Okay.
Thought it was really good. I like the setting. I like the handling. I think it's maybe a little too slow at points.
Mhm.
There are a couple of pieces where we could have sped up a little bit and not really lost much. And sometimes it just hits a little too close to home. There's just a couple of scenes you're like, man,
I've been around people like that. I am related to people
I
like
am
that.
related. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But other scenes, stuff we didn't even touch on it. During the prison riot, quote unquote, where they're making the demands about the
Game of
Thrones books.
That don't make no sense.
So I was laughing so hard.
Dwight Young. It says here that
I says
his
here,
promotion schedule was too rough.
I'm on the Wikipedia. Just
He's been
cracked
writing
me
that
up.
book for 5 years.
Yeah. That was a good scene.
Yeah, this is just fantastic.
Cool. I'll bring it down a little bit. I gave it a 7.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy this movie. I like it. I appreciate it for a lot of the good acting and a lot of the good cinematography. I think it's a little too slow for me. I feel like there are definitely scenes that it could be sped up a little bit. And I'm not usually the type of person to throw a movie on in the background and do stuff. Usually if I'm watching a movie, I'm watching
You're
a movie.
watching it. Yeah.
That's just me.
Mhm.
Now, there's some stuff, but for me, most of the time when I'm doing that, I put a podcast on or I'll put on a YouTube video or something that is a little more mindless. For me, movies are like zero in and watch it. So for me, I would be much more likely to watch like Ocean's 11 just because it's quicker, it's fast paced. There's a lot of charismatic characters in it. I love everything about the characters in this heist. Some of the mechanics of it bug me. They hinge on luck.
Yeah.
And then again, not having that villain to root against kind of hurt it a little bit for me. And then just a little bit of the slow pacing. It's definitely not a bad movie. I like it. I don't feel like I will want to watch it again for another few years. It's not something I would want to put on on a regular basis. Like I watched this back in 2017. I didn't see it in theaters, but I rented it or watched it on Amazon probably really close to after it came out. And I haven't watched it since until this review. And at no point in that time was like, man, I gotta watch Logan Lucky. So that's why I knock it down to a 7. Like I enjoy this movie, I like it, but I don't think it's something that I would like just come back to over and over and over.
I mean, that's totally fair. Like this has kind of turned into one of the films that like whenever we're with people that we like to watch like films with and stuff, we always ask like if we're trying to figure out what to watch that night. You're like, oh, have you ever seen this? And if they say no, we're like, oh, that's
a
we're
solid
watching.
pick for that kind of movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what else should somebody check out if they liked this movie?
Ocean's 11.
I was like, we said it over and over again.
Sure.
To go check out the Ocean's.
I think Ocean's is
sets.
an easy recommendation.
The original Italian Job, if you've not seen it,
That's a
fantastic
good one.
film.
Yeah.
Michael Caine.
If you've seen the more recent one, checking out the original is definitely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of another heist.
So I've got a couple here.
Yeah.
So I tried to hew closer to like this type of movie. So if you like the bumbling rural heist, I would recommend Bottle Rocket, the 1996 Wes Anderson film. It's his first movie.
Yeah. I remember this one.
It's probably the least Wes Anderson movie ever. It's before he really
became
got
Wes
his style.
Anderson.
Yeah.
pre-Rushmore. Like this is like his first thing. It's got
Rushmore's the film.
Wes Anderson, Luke and Owen Wilson are in it, obviously. It's about a pair of friends who, like, as an alternative to being functioning and responsible adults, they basically plan an elaborate heist at a cold storage warehouse that immediately backfires. So if you like kind of the bumbling, people that should not be planning a heist, that's good. The other one I would recommend is Hell or High Water. Have you guys seen this one? It was from 2016 with Chris Pine, Jeff Bridges. It's a very it's a bank heist.
Yeah.
It's more serious, but it is, if you like that, like rural, like not your typical, heist movie. This isn't a city. There's a pair of brothers, and they basically, it's like a borderline modern day Western, I would say.
Yeah.
But they execute a heist over a number of banks in order to save their family farm that's being like reclaimed by like a corrupt bank or whatever. So they're robbing the same bank that's trying to steal basically their farm,
Yeah.
and then Jeff Bridges is trying to catch them.
Okay.
And it's one of those good movies or heist films where it's like you're almost rooting for both of them. You're rooting for them to get away with it and for him to catch them because it's
Yeah.
going back and forth
Right.
of like he's just doing his job trying to find out what's going on. So, and if you like that kind of rural, not your typical heist setting, I would recommend that one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, then let's wrap it up. Thanks for listening to Spoilers Intended. Remember, if you like what you heard and you want more, you can check us out at spoilersintendedpodcast.com. From there, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $1, and you get access to all of our bonus episodes. You can also be a part of our Discord server and join in on the conversation. You can check us out on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. All the links are right there at the website. Once again, that's spoilersintendedpodcast.com. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And as always, every spoiler was intended.